Welcome to another AI pattern recognition deep dive.
Today, we're plunging into a topic that really redefines what we mean by security. It's called defense AI.
Right, and when you hear that, you probably think military tech, right? Drones, maybe cybersecurity?
Exactly. Firewalls, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But our analysis shows that defense AI is actually much, much broader. It's more like this overarching system.
A layer of protection, really, designed to secure, well, pretty much every core domain of human existence.
From our biology, genetics, health, all the way to, say, global finance stability, and even social fairness.
That's the huge shift. It's not a single gadget. It's a method, an intelligence structure, and its whole purpose is identifying and, mitigating risk across the board.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive sounds pretty big then.
It is. 3 parts, really. First, we need to understand the core mechanism. How does this AI actually see the patterns it needs to see?
Right, the pattern recognition engine.
Second, where is it being used? We'll look at 4 critical areas of human life.
And third,
the risks. We have to confront them, especially when the AI starts finding patterns like deep-seated historical biases that make us, well, pretty uncomfortable.
that leads to the big question, doesn't it? How do you build this kind of protective system so it's transparent, truly aligned with our values, which are complex enough and maybe even capable of correcting for the flawed data our own history gives it?
That's the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it?
Okay, let's start at the foundation. How does this thing actually operate? Whether it's watching the stock market or scanning a genome, what's the fundamental tool?
Well, it's not just calculation. It's fundamentally about prediction.
Prediction. Explain that a bit more.
Sure. See, recognizing any pattern is in itself an active prediction. If an AI spots the pattern of a potentially cancerous cell.
It's predicting how that cell might behave, multiply, cause harm.
Exactly. Or if it flags an unusual financial transaction, it's predicting fraudulent intent, right, before it causes major loss.
So it's about processing just vast amounts of data, more than humans can handle.
Oh, vastly more. And crucially, dynamic data streams. It's constantly scanning for deviations, for anomalies that signal risks.
And this allows it to react to new situations, things it hasn't explicitly seen before.
Precisely. That predictive power lets it fill in the blanks, essentially. It can size up a novel situation incredibly fast, anticipating the threat before it fully forms or needs a human to step in. It's not reactive, it's proactive, looking years, maybe decades ahead, not just at yesterday's data.
Okay, but the real world isn't static. It's messy, unpredictable. So the AI can't just be a fixed model, can it? It needs to learn.
Absolutely essential. The sources we looked at hammer this point home. Spontaneous self-correction. It's a core design requirement.
Spontaneous self-correction.
Yeah.
Sounds complex.
It is, but it's what sets defense AI apart from older machine learning. It's designed to mirror human adaptability, maybe even exceed it in some ways.
How does that work in practice, say for that drone diversion example, or adjusting medicine dosages?
Okay, so traditionally, an AI might generate a possible solution, like a new flight path for the drone, and then it waits. It waits for an external check, maybe human feedback, maybe another system, to verify if that solution is good.
Right, a generate then test cycle.
Exactly. Spontaneous self-correction flips that. The AI generates the solution and the verification, the proof that the solution works according to its goals simultaneously. It's one continuous internal process.
Whoa. So it's basically checking its own homework as it goes. It's like its own internal quality control.
You could think of it like that, almost like its own immune system, constantly checking and adjusting. But it's much faster and much more accurate because it's not waiting for that external feedback loop all the time.
It's learning and refining its own model on the fly.
Constantly. Based on the newest data, validating its adjustments against its core programming, that's really the only way you can scale protective AI across complex, unpredictable environments. It has to adapt itself.
Okay. That level of internal complexity, though. Learning, self-verifying faster than humans can track. That brings us right to the black box problem, doesn't it?
It certainly does. If the system is tweaking its own logic constantly, how can we possibly trust its decisions? Especially when we're talking about life or death situations or, the stability of the entire financial system.
If we can't see why it made a decision, how can we rely on it?
Exactly. Trust is the absolute linchpin here. If the trust breaks down, the whole system is useless, maybe even dangerous. And that's where explainable AI, or XAI, comes in.
So XAI isn't just a feature, it's fundamental to the whole concept.
It has to be. It's baked into the architecture specifically to tackle that black box tendency, and it really operates under 4 key goals. You could say they're non-negotiable.
Okay, let's walk through those 4 goals. They seem critical for defining that human-machine relationship. First up, intellectual oversight.
Right. This means humans must be able to follow the AI's reasoning. If an AI flags, say, a potential cyber attack vector, the human security analyst needs to see the why. What indicators did it pick up on? What's the logic chain?
So it's not just about accepting the answer, but understanding how the AI got there, to improve the human's judgment too.
Precisely. If the human just becomes a button pusher, clicking accept on the AI's recommendation without understanding, then human supervision becomes meaningless. You lose the benefit of human experience and intuition.
Okay, goal number 2, trust and acceptance. This sounds more emotional, but also practical.
It is. Think about it. If you're a doctor and an AI suggests a radical new treatment plan, you need deep confidence in its reasoning before you act on it. Same for a military commander trusting a threat assessment. XAI is about providing the evidence for that confidence by making the logic transparent.
Makes sense. Third goal, transparency. How's that different from oversight?
Transparency is broader. It's about having a clear view of the AI's entire operation. What data did it use in the past? What is it processing right now? What are its projected next actions or predictions? This full picture is what makes the system auditable, traceable, legally accountable.
Right, you need that audit trail. And the fourth goal, this one caught my eye, countering undesirable tricks. What kind of tricks are we talking about? Is the AI being sneaky?
Usually not intentionally sneaky. It's more about the AI being, well, finding clever shortcuts that meet the letter of its programming but violate the spirit, or just fail spectacularly in the real world.
Like the example sometimes used of an AI trained to identify tanks, but it just learns to spot cloudy days because most tank photos were taken then.
Exactly that kind of thing. Or the dog identification system you mentioned earlier that just looks for grass. The AI finds an easy correlation in the training data that satisfies its goal, find dogs, but completely misses the actual object. Countering these tricks means having audit mechanisms to ensure the AI is learning patterns that are actually relevant to the real-world problem, not just statistical artifacts in the dataset.
So how do we actually do that? How do we shine a light inside that black box? What are the XAI tools?
There are several techniques becoming quite sophisticated now. Two really important ones are SHAP and saliency maps.
SHA, that's an acronym, right?
Yes, it stands for Shapley Additive Explanations. It draws from cooperative game theory, actually.
Game theory, how does that apply?
Think of all the input data points, sensor readings, genetic markers, market indicators as players in a game cooperating to produce the final output, the prediction. SHAP calculates the exact contribution, or you could say the payout, or even the blame, of each individual input feature towards that final decision.
Okay, so it tells you precisely how much influence a specific piece of data had on the outcome.
Exactly. It quantifies the importance of each feature. So if an AI predicts machine failure, SHAP can tell you, okay, 70% of that prediction is driven by this specific vibration pattern, 20% by the temperature reading, and 10% by the operating hours. That really helps build trust and understanding.
I can see how that directly addresses the why. What about saliency maps?
Saliency maps are much more visual. Imagine an AI analyzing a medical image, like an X-ray. A saliency map would overlay a kind of heat map onto that image, highlighting the specific pixels or regions that the AI model paid the most attention to when making its diagnosis.
So you literally see what the AI is looking at.
Precisely. Or for that machine failure example, it might visualize the specific frequencies in the vibration data that triggered the alert. This visualization is incredibly powerful. It turns the abstract complexity of the AI model into something concrete and understandable for the human expert. It makes the invisible visible.
Okay, so we've got the engine, this predictive, self-correcting, explainable AI. Now, where does this engine get deployed? How does this pattern recognition show up in our actual lives? We're moving into those 4 core domains you mentioned.
Right. And this is where you see just how broad this concept of defense has become. It's not just walls and borders anymore. It's about securing life itself at multiple levels: molecular, economic, political, even cognitive, ###A, human biology and genetics patterns, proactive health.
Let's start right at the core, our own bodies. Defense AI and biology. What patterns is it looking for there?
Primarily, it's identifying genomic risk factors, GRFs, and the fundamental hallmarks of aging.
Genomic risk factors.
Yeah.
So predisposition to diseases.
Yes, but it's way beyond the old model of looking for 1 or 2 specific bad genes. The real power of AI here, especially deep learning, is handling the sheer volume and complexity of genomic data.
Analyzing the whole genome profile, not just bits and pieces.
Exactly. And crucially, looking for complex gene interactions. Often your risk isn't determined by a single gene, but by how dozens or hundreds of genes work together. AI can model those incredibly complex networks.
And it looks beyond the basic DNA code too, right, at epigenetics.
Absolutely critical. Epigenetic factors, how your environment, your diet, your lifestyle, switch genes on or off without changing the DNA sequence itself. AI can analyze these epigenetic markers across the genome to get a much more dynamic picture of your health risks.
What about the parts of the genome we used to call junk DNA?
That's another huge area. AI is revealing how those non-coding regions actually regulate the coding genes. They're like the control switches. Understanding that regulation is fundamentally changing how we see disease pathways and individual susceptibility.
Can you give a specific example of this in action?
A really powerful one is identifying the hallmarks of aging. These are common molecular and cellular processes like genomic instability or mitochondrial dysfunction that seem to drive aging across many different species, including humans.
So universal patterns of decline.
Right. By identifying these shared patterns, AI models can develop incredibly precise, deep aging clocks. These clocks measure your biological age, not just your chronological age, based on molecular markers.
And knowing that helps how?
Well, first, it gives a much better predictor of health span and lifespan. Second, by understanding the mechanisms driving those clocks, AI can help identify potential geroprotectors compounds or interventions that might slow or even reverse specific aspects of aging by targeting those hallmarks.
Wow. So this really embodies that shift you mentioned earlier from reacting to illness to proactively defending health.
That's the core purpose here. It's about personalized preventative health, moving away from treating diseases after they've taken hold and towards mitigating the risk before they manifest.
Like predicting drug responses.
Exactly. That's pharmacogenomics. Using your specific genetic and epigenetic profile, AI can predict with much higher accuracy how you'll respond to a particular medication. Will it be effective? Will you have side effects? This gets rid of a lot of the dangerous trial and error in medicine.
Or the diabetes example.
Perfect example. Using data from a continuous glucose monitor, AI can detect subtle patterns and predict a potential hypoglycemic or hyperglycemic crisis hours in advance, allowing the person to take preventative action. It turns a population statistic into a personalized early warning system. Hashtag, and B. Human economics and possessiveness patterns, financial security.
Okay, from the molecular level, let's jump to the transactional. Defense, AI, and finance. What's the pattern focus here?
Here, it's all about fraud, market anomalies, and systemic risk, protecting the stability of the economic system.
Because economic stability is fundamental to, well, everything else.
Absolutely. Think about traditional financial monitoring. It mostly relies on static, rule-based systems. If a transaction is over $10,000, flag it. Or if it originates from this specific country, flag it.
But criminals adapt, right? They learn the rules.
Exactly. Sophisticated fraud, money laundering, market manipulation, they rarely follow simple, obvious rules. They use complex, layered schemes. That's where AI, especially machine learning, comes in. It monitors transactional patterns in real time, looking for subtle anomalies, deviations from normal behavior that indicate complex criminal activity.
And it's better at filtering out the noise, the false alarms that plague the old systems.
Significantly better. Those conventional systems drown analysts in false positives. We saw figures suggesting that sometimes only 2% of the alerts generated by rule-based systems actually point to true malicious intent.
So 98% of the time, people are chasing shadows. That must cost a fortune.
Billions globally in wasted operational costs and time. Advanced AI auditing looks at sequences of behavior, relationships between accounts. Timing it tries to understand the underlying intent pattern, not just flag superficial characteristics. This dramatically boosts the success rate in finding real crime and reduces the burden of false alerts.
So the purpose here is stability not just for one bank, but for the whole market, preventing another 2008-style crisis.
That's a big part of it. Managing systemic risk. AI models analyze vast amounts of global data market movements, new sentiment, geopolitical events, interest rate fluctuations to try and forecast potential shocks to the system. It's also used for protecting large organizational assets through more sophisticated risk management and algorithmic training strategies. It's about preventing those sudden, cascading failures triggered by hard-to-detect anomalies. #C, human, political, and cultural patterns, national security and governance.
Okay, now we zoom out further. Geopolitics, national security, governance. What patterns is defense AI looking for in this arena?
Here, the focus is on conflict indicators and disinformation campaigns. It's about understanding and predicting instability and manipulation on a global scale.
That sounds incredibly complex. How does AI even begin to tackle that?
It requires highly sophisticated multimodal systems. These aren't just analyzing text, they integrate data from dozens of sources simultaneously.
Like what kinds of sources?
Diplomatic communications, news reports from around the world, social media sentiment analysis, satellite imagery looking for troop movements, new construction, refugee flows, even potentially audio data, like analyzing the tone of leaders' speeches.
Wow. It's processing this global fire hose of information.
To identify patterns that might predict conflict escalation, political instability, humanitarian crises. The goal is to give governments and international organizations early warnings, allowing them to perhaps simulate different diplomatic or intervention strategies proactively.
And a huge piece of modern conflict and politics is information warfare, right? Disinformation.
Absolutely critical. AI is being deployed to detect the subtle patterns of disinformation campaigns. It's looking at how influence is manufactured and spread online.
How does it spot that?
It looks for things like coordinated networks of bots, amplifying specific narratives. It analyzes how these bots exploit the algorithms of social media platforms. Algorithms often designed simply to maximize engagement, to push polarizing content, sow confusion, or create the illusion of popular consensus around a particular viewpoint.
Essentially weaponizing the platform's own patterns against itself.
Precisely. The AI identifies these coordinated behaviors, the content distribution pathways, the targeted demographics. It's about mapping the infrastructure of manipulation, which is crucial for defending democratic processes against destabilization efforts, whether foreign or domestic.
Are there specific tools for this? You mentioned QuantSpark earlier.
Yes, tools like that are used more on the corporate side, but the principle is similar for governments. They monitor global events, trade disruptions, political shifts, military tensions, and run sophisticated simulations. What happens if this shipping lane closes? What's the impact of this election result on supply chains? It allows for proactive contingency planning.
So the overall purpose for defense AI here is safeguarding democracy and national security by spotting vulnerabilities and trying to build guardrails against manipulation.
Exactly. Identifying threats before they fully materialize, whether they're kinetic or informational, hashtag D, human behavior, education, and nature patterns, capability enhancement.
Okay, for the final domain, we turn the lens inward again, focusing on patterns in human behavior, education, even our interaction with nature, to enhance our capabilities.
That's right. It's about using AI to understand and optimize human potential and well-being. The patterns here are things like learning deficiencies and health deviations.
Let's start with education. How does AI pattern recognition help there?
This is already happening in quite a few places with adaptive learning platforms. These aren't just digital textbooks. They use AI to create a real-time feedback loop with the student.
How does that work?
As the student interacts with the material, answering questions, working through problems, the AI analyzes their responses, identifies specific knowledge gaps or misconceptions in real time. Is the student struggling with fractions? Do they misunderstand a core concept in biology?
And then it adjusts.
Instantly. It dynamically micro-adjusts the difficulty level, maybe offers a different type of explanation, provides targeted practice on the weak spots. It creates a truly customized learning pathway for each student, maximizing their progress based on their unique learning patterns. It's data-driven teaching.
That sounds much more efficient than a one-size-fits-all classroom. Now, what about personal defense using health deviations? This connects back to the wearables we discussed.
Yes, this is where wearable AI goes beyond just tracking your steps or heart rate. It establishes a highly personalized baseline of what's normal for you.
Your unique vital signs, heart rate variability patterns, sleep cycles, even how you walk your gait.
Exactly. It learns your individual patterns across multiple metrics. Then, crucially, it watches for subtle, but that's the goal. By spotting pattern changes early, the AI can potentially forecast and help avert a crisis. We talked about predicting diabetic issues. Think also about detecting subtle cardiac arrhythmias hours or days before they become serious.
Or maybe even changes in movement or sleep patterns that could indicate the early onset of a neurological condition.
That's certainly an area of active research. Or even forecasting a panic attack based on minute changes in breathing rate and heart rate variability, allowing someone to use coping techniques before it escalates. It's like having an always-on personalized health guardian.
So the big picture purpose in this domain is enhancing human capabilities.
Yes, and promoting cooperative social norms. It's about leveraging behavioral science principles within the AI design to ensure it genuinely supports learning, health, and even better decision-making, rather than just automating tasks or creating dependency. It aims to augment human judgment and relationships, not replace them.
Okay, part 2 painted a picture of incredible power, this pervasive pattern recognition across every facet of life. But that much power inevitably comes with significant risks. We absolutely have to talk about the downsides: inequality, unfairness, the concentration of power.
This is the crucial pivot, isn't it? Because when you build a system designed to find and optimize patterns, you have to ask, what patterns is it finding? If the historical data you feed it is already riddled with bias, with systemic injustice.
The AI won't magically fix that. It will find those bias patterns because they're in the data.
Exactly. And worse, it will likely amplify them, because those biased patterns might look efficient from a purely algorithmic perspective. This fundamentally undermines the whole stated goal of defense AI, protecting all people equally. Hashtag A, inequality and unfairness. Algorithmic bias.
So, algorithmic bias. It happens because the AI is essentially holding up a mirror to our past, including all its flaws, right? It learns and reinforces discriminatory patterns from the training data.
And the results can be devastatingly unfair. We found some really stark examples in the sources. Take healthcare. There was a widely used risk prediction algorithm designed to identify patients who needed extra medical care and resources. Sounds good, right?
Yeah, seems beneficial. What went wrong?
It showed significant racial bias. The AI learned that a very efficient proxy for future health needs was past healthcare spending.
Oh, but spending is heavily tied to income, insurance access, which historically correlates strongly with race in many places.
Precisely. So the algorithm effectively learned to allocate more extra care resources to white patients because they had historically spent more, even if Black patients had objectively more severe chronic illnesses or higher risk scores based on actual health data. The AI codified historical socioeconomic disadvantage into a current medical decision. It mistook cost for need.
That's deeply problematic.
Yeah.
Taking a flawed past and projecting it as optimal future policy. And this isn't isolated to healthcare, is it? Security, law enforcement.
No, unfortunately not. Facial recognition technology is a well-documented example. Many early systems were trained predominantly on datasets featuring lighter-skinned males.
So they got really good at recognizing people who looked like the training data.
Right. But when these systems were used on populations with darker skin tones, particularly women, the error rates skyrocketed. Some studies showed misidentification rates approaching 35% for darker-skinned women, compared to less than 1% for lighter-skinned men.
35%. That's not just a glitch, that's systemic failure. The potential for false arrests, misidentification in security contexts, it's enormous.
It directly threatens equal protection under the law and can easily amplify existing systemic biases in policing.
And even in areas that seem more objective, like hiring.
Bias creeps in there too. Some AI recruiting tools were trained on historical data from companies or industries that were frankly dominated by white men for decades.
So the AI learned what success looked like based on that skewed history.
Yes. It learned patterns associated with resumes from those dominant groups and inadvertently started penalizing applications from women or minorities, even when names and explicit identifiers were removed. It picked up on subtle cues like word choice, university attended, or even extracurricular activities that correlated with the historical majority. It learned the pattern of past discrimination.
Looking at the bigger economic picture now, there's an argument that AI might automate some high-paying jobs, maybe slightly reducing wage inequality based on skills. But the sources seem worried about wealth inequality.
That's a major concern. While some tasks might get automated, the enormous productivity gains and financial returns from these advanced AI systems are likely, at least in the short to medium term, to flow primarily to those who own the technology, the platforms, the data.
The capital owners, not necessarily the labor force.
Exactly. So while wages might shift around, overall wealth concentration is projected to increase. This could significantly widen the gap between the richest individuals, corporations, and everyone else, and also potentially widen the economic divide between nations that develop and deploy AI effectively and those that don't. It's a potential driver of major geopolitical tension. Hashtag B, possessiveness, power, and unintended escalation.
Okay, so beyond the bias baked into the data, there's another risk just from the concentration of these powerful, often opaque AI systems, especially in something like finance.
Yes, this is what some call concentration risk, or sometimes monoculture risk. Think about high-frequency trading. If multiple major financial institutions all adopt very similar, complex, deep learning models for their trading strategies, models that even their creators don't fully understand, the black box problem again.
They all might react to the same market signal in the exact same way, at the exact same microsecond.
Precisely. Instead of diverse strategies providing some market stability, you get a herd behavior driven by algorithms. A small anomaly, maybe even a sensor glitch or a weird news event, could trigger a massive synchronized sell-off or buy-up across multiple systems.
Leading to a flash crash or some other form of sudden, unpredictable market instability. Because everyone's running the same playbook.
It creates a fragile ecosystem, a monoculture, where one triggering event can wipe out a huge portion of the system very quickly.
Now, shifting that idea to traditional defense and security. If defense AI relies on pattern recognition, adversaries are surely looking for ways to exploit that, right? To fool the pattern.
Absolutely. Defense vulnerability through manipulation of the AI's perception is a huge area of concern and active research on both sides.
How can they do that?
One technique is data poisoning. This isn't usually a fast, obvious attack. It's subtle. Imagine slowly feeding slightly corrupted or misleading data into the massive data sets used to train an AI model over months or years.
Like adding tiny amounts of dirty fuel to the engine over time.
Good analogy. The goal is to gradually, almost imperceptibly, degrade the AI's reliability or introduce a specific blind spot so that one day, maybe in a crisis, it misidentifies a target or fails to detect a threat or classify something friendly as hostile.
That's insidious. What about more direct attacks? Like fooling image recognition?
Yes, we've seen research into adversarial patterns. For example, designing specific patterns on clothing that, while looking random to humans, are specifically calculated to confuse AI surveillance cameras or facial recognition systems, making the wearer effectively invisible or misidentified.
Or spoofing the signals that targeting algorithms rely on.
Exactly. Generating fake signals to trick an autonomous system. Now, the most dangerous moment, according to the analysis, might not be the attack itself, but the discovery that such an attack is possible or has occurred.
Why the discovery?
Because it creates profound uncertainty for human decision makers. Suddenly, can they trust their automated systems? Can they trust their intelligence feeds? Is the data real or manipulated?
And that uncertainty in a tense geopolitical situation.
It could be incredibly destabilizing. The fear that your systems are compromised or that the adversary systems are unreliable might lead leaders, human leaders, to mistrust de-escalation signals, to assume the worst, and potentially make a preemptive move towards conflict. The uncertainty itself becomes the driver of escalation. Hashtag C. The future of human evolution.
Okay, let's pull back for the widest possible view. The sources suggest that widespread adoption of this kind of prescriptive AI, it could influence almost everything, where we live, how we work, maybe even our biology in the long run.
It's a profound thought. If AI optimizes logistics and remote work, does it change human settlement patterns away from megacities? If AI drives productivity, how does that reshape economies and leisure? And yes, if advanced personalized medicine guided by AI becomes capable of not just treating disease, but enhancing traits or selecting for certain genetic profiles.
Could, over generations, actually influence human gene frequencies. That's touching on evolution itself.
It is. Which brings us to perhaps the most fundamental question. What is the role left for human judgment, for free will, when we're partnered with incredibly powerful AI systems that are constantly telling us the optimal path?
If the AI is always suggesting the most efficient route, the best health intervention, the safest investment, do we lose our ability to make our own choices, even flawed ones? Do we stop thinking critically?
Do we risk becoming passively reliant, losing the very cognitive diversity and capacity for independent judgment that makes us adaptable? It's a serious concern about long-term human capability.
So the AI is increasingly defining efficiency, health, security. What ultimately determines how this future unfolds? Is it just about having the most powerful AI?
The analysis suggests no. It's not just about raw computational power. The future likely hinges more on trust, and specifically on who can most effectively exploit or undermine that trust.
So it becomes a game of confidence.
In many ways, yes. If people lose faith in these systems because they perceive them as biased or opaque or easily manipulated, then the entire protective layer, the whole promise of defense AI, collapses. This makes governance absolutely critical.
Disciplined oversight, legal frameworks.
Yes, but more than that. The core challenge is achieving genuine alignment. ensuring these powerful AI systems develop and operate in ways that are consistent with evolving human values, our complex intentions, and our overall well-being. That alignment is the foundation of trust.
Okay, the risks are definitely sobering. But the analysis isn't all doom and gloom. It also points towards a path forward, one that requires deliberate design for a more symbiotic relationship between humans and AI. We need the right tools and, maybe just as importantly, the right kinds of jobs and governance structures.
Exactly. It's about building the infrastructure for co-alignment, not just developing the AI itself. Hashtag tag, 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 tag A, suggested devices and hardware for real-time defense.
So what kind of hardware enables this? What are the physical interfaces for this pervasive protection?
Well, technology is already moving fast in this direction. We've touched on some already.
Like the wearable AI devices for health monitoring.
Right. Advanced continuous glucose monitors, sophisticated ECG patches, maybe even wearables that track stress markers or sleep quality with high fidelity. These aren't just passive trackers anymore. They integrate the predictive AI models we discussed, potentially offering real-time personalized health advice or alerts. They become active participants in your health defense.
What about enhancing our perception of the environment?
That's where AI-powered augmented reality AR glasses come in. Think beyond just displaying notifications. Imagine a firefighter seeing building schematics and heat signatures overlaid on their vision.
Or a technician seeing step-by-step repair instructions, visually guiding them on complex machinery.
Exactly. It integrates the AI's knowledge and analysis directly into the user's perception of the real world, providing real-time hazard warnings, navigation aids, or task guidance. It enhances situational awareness dramatically.
And for physical tasks, we mentioned exoskeletons.
Yes, AI-enhanced exoskeletons. These aren't just about brute strength anymore. AI analyzes the wearer's movements, predicts fatigue based on biometric sensors, and optimizes the exoskeleton's assistance to maximize efficiency, prevent injury, and enhance endurance in physically demanding jobs, from construction to logistics to military applications.
So the AI is personalizing the physical support.
Right. And underlying many of these applications, especially the more complex ones, are the multimodal AI systems. Things like Google's Gemini or OpenAI's developing models.
Why is multimodality so important?
Because humans don't reason based on just one type of data, right? We combine what we see, what we hear, what we read, our past experiences. It's all integrated. Multimodal AI tries to replicate that by processing text, images, audio, sensor data, maybe even video all together.
It gets a much richer, more contextual understanding of a situation, less likely to make errors based on limited data.
That's the idea. It approximates human reasoning more closely, allowing for more nuanced pattern recognition and hopefully avoiding some of the narrow, brittle failures you can get from AI trained on only one type of data. It's crucial for robust, real-world performance. Hashtag new jobs and educational patterns.
Okay, implementing all this advanced tech,
Right.
it's obviously going to shake up the job market. Disruptive, yes, but the analysis suggests it also creates demand for entirely new kinds of human roles.
Absolutely. While some tasks will be automated, we'll see huge growth in roles focused on designing, managing, governing, and integrating these complex AI systems safely and ethically.
We'll still need the core technical people, of course.
Oh, yes. The AI engineers and data scientists are fundamental. They're the ones actually building and refining the algorithms, the predictive models. But the real expansion is in the roles that bridge the gap between the technology and its human context.
Like the AI-driven educators you mentioned.
Exactly. These aren't just teachers using tech. They are specialists in how AI can optimize learning. They understand adaptive platforms, they analyze the learning patterns the AI identifies, and they work with the AI to ensure it's delivering truly personalized and effective education, based on pedagogical best practices and evidence from the data.
Then there's the crucial role of oversight, keeping these systems in check.
Which leads to risk management and audit specialists focused specifically on AI. Their job is critical. They develop the practical XAI frameworks, they ensure compliance with regulations, which are getting increasingly complex, and they continuously audit AI models.
Audit them for what, specifically?
For bias, for fairness, for security vulnerabilities, for legal risks, for adherence to ethical guidelines. They are the independent scrutineers making sure that AI systems operate within defined, safe boundaries. They keep the systems honest.
And perhaps the most forward-looking role, the human AI alignment specialist. What do they do?
This role is really at the heart of the co-alignment challenge. These specialists focus explicitly on ensuring the AI's goals and behaviors align with human values and intentions. They might have backgrounds in fields like philosophy, ethics, cognitive science, sociology, alongside technical understanding.
So they're trying to translate human values into something the AI can understand and act upon.
Essentially, yes, they work on value alignment frameworks, integrate behavioral science insights into AI design, help shape the social norms and trust mechanisms around how we interact with AI. They are the crucial interpreters, the bridge builders, ensuring the technology serves human well-being, not just abstract optimization goals. #CC,
Yeah.
cooperation patterns and alignment for a symbiotic society.
Okay, so we have tools, we have the potential new roles, but how do we actually achieve this symbiosis? How do we make sure defense AI is truly protective, not oppressive? The sources mentioned 3 pillars for co-alignment.
Yes, 3 interconnected pillars that are necessary for this to work sustainably. The first is perhaps the most traditional but still essential: external oversight.
Meaning humans stay in charge.
Ultimately, yes. It means grounding the final decisions, especially high-stakes ones or those involving significant uncertainty, in human-centered governance structures. AI provides recommendations, analysis, predictions, but human judgment, accountability, and ethical considerations must remain paramount. This can be supplemented by automated checks, but the final authority rests with humans.
Okay, human oversight. What's the second pillar? This one sounded more radical. Intrinsic proactive alignment.
This is about building alignment into the AI itself, from the ground up. It's a design philosophy. The goal is to engineer AI not just to follow instructions, but to possess capabilities like self-awareness, understanding its own goals and limitations, self-reflection, evaluating its actions against broader principles, and even a functional equivalent of empathy.
Empathy in AI. How would that even work?
It's not about feeling emotions, obviously. It's about the AI having the capacity to accurately model and predict human mental states, our intentions, preferences, likely reactions, and use that model to guide its behavior. The aim is for the AI to spontaneously infer what actions would be genuinely beneficial or harmful to humans, even in novel situations not covered by explicit rules.
So it's trying to anticipate our needs and values, not just follow code. That sounds incredibly difficult. Is that even feasible with current tech?
It's definitely the frontier, the highest technical and philosophical hurdle. It requires moving beyond simple pattern matching to genuine contextual understanding and reasoning about human well-being. Current research explores things like embedding complex utility functions that explicitly weigh outcomes based on human values, or using techniques like inverse reinforcement learning to infer goals from observed human behavior. It's a long road, but seen as necessary for deep trust.
Okay, so intrinsic alignment is the aspirational goal for the AI's internal design. What's the third pillar?
The third pillar is governance embedding. This complements external oversight. Instead of just relying on laws and regulations applied after the fact from the outside.
You build the rules directly into the AI's architecture.
Exactly. Embed governance principles, ethical constraints, transparency requirements, monitoring mechanisms directly into the AI systems as part of their core design and operation. Make compliance and ethical checks an integral part of the AI's internal processing and feedback loops.
So safety and ethics aren't an add-on. They're part of the engine's design from day one.
That's the goal. It makes governance much more agile, responsive, and effective than trying to regulate these incredibly complex, fast-moving systems purely through external, often slow-moving legal frameworks. #outro.
Well, this has been a truly mind-bending deep dive. We started with defense AI seeming like military tech, but we've seen it's really a pervasive system of protection. It relies on transparent pattern recognition, that's the XAI part, across our biology, our finances, our politics, basically everything.
And crucially, we've seen the severe risks when that pattern recognition goes wrong. Algorithmic bias isn't theoretical, it has real-world consequences, like that healthcare algorithm reinforcing racial disparities based on spending data. And the systemic risks, like financial monocultures leading to instability, are also very real.
The path forward seemed to involve not just better tech like multimodal AI and wearables, but also new human roles focused on oversight, auditing, and that incredibly challenging task of human-AI alignment.
Trying to achieve that symbiosis through external oversight, intrinsic alignment built into the AI, and embedding governance right into the code.
Which leaves us with a final, quite provocative thought for you, our listeners, to mull over. We've heard compelling evidence today that AI learns from our history, inheriting and often amplifying the bias patterns embedded in our past actions.
And we also heard that for AI to be truly safe and trustworthy, it needs to learn to self-correct, maybe even infer human intentions and empathy. So here's the question. Does achieving true, safe alignment mean that defense AI must first be designed to actively correct for our own flawed historical human patterns, the patterns of inequality, bias, and unfairness, before it can be safely entrusted to guide our future? Can AI help us fix our past before it shapes what's next?
Searching for answers to unanswered questions.
This is DigitView.